Hey, my name is Raneece Buddan. I'm a sculptor, painter, weaver. I use all the mediums if I can. I'm from Jamaica, but I've been in Canada for a decade now. And I got my BFA at the University of Alberta in 2020. Okay. So with my process for the maypole, I started with carving the wood. I wanted to include scenes of the dancers, the drummer, just different elements of the maypole, specifically to Jamaica, which also includes the bandana, which the patterns I've engraved into the wood. You can also see the textile on it. And then I went on to printing the textiles. So I've incorporated both Indian and Jamaican motifs and African motifs, specifically West African. So I wanted to create all of those things because in my art, I'm speaking specifically about my cultural identity. So I like to incorporate all parts of myself, but making it central to Jamaica. So I've also included the hummingbird, which is our national bird, and I've included the lignum vitae, which is our national flower. So I wanted to make sure that if there are people from Jamaica who are seeing this art, they can identify themselves in the work. But also if there's somebody who's of South Asian descent or African descent, they can also see themselves in the piece. So I wanted to incorporate all of my different mediums into this piece, so the printmaking and the sculpting into one thing, which will lead into something I also love, which is dance. So I'll be adding ribbons for the workshop to engage the audience. So with this project, since October, I've been very involved in my community, especially trying to lead and organize art events for Palestine. So with this piece and in applying for the project, I was thinking, how can I involve the community in something that is more lighthearted, that is community central, that will involve dance and movement and will bring us together. And I was thinking of what I did as a child, which was dancing, and I did maypole dancing and a bunch of different cultural dances. And it seemed like a great activity that would bring audience of like different ages, all the way from kids to adults, together to dance together in Churchill Square. So that's kind of what inspired this project, because I know dance played a major part in my childhood. And it's something I'd like to go back to in my adulthood, if that's just through my art. So with my art practice, I started trying to figure out how could I connect to my ancestors and how could I do that in my art pieces. And textile was something I was really drawn to, because I was drawn to clothing. So African clothing, Indian clothing, the sari. And that was a way I could put it into my work. And I wanted to dig deeper into making the textiles for my pieces. So I started looking more into Indian textiles and African textiles, specifically West African, so Ghanaian, Nigerian, and Indian textiles, and looking at the different motifs that were prominent in these. So in a lot of Indian textiles, it's very floral, and in African textiles, it's very geometric. So with woodblock printing, I was able to create what I consider as a self-portrait of myself, fusing these different textiles into one type, which is myself, I guess. So with this piece, I wanted to be very focused on community. So with the workshop, I'll be able to bring the community together to learn about the maypole, and in a different way. I feel like a lot of people know of maypole dancing, but it's different with Jamaican music, as we use traditional folk music, which is the dinky mini is one. So there's a lot of drumming and ancestral music. So very much connected to slavery in that these songs were sung by the slaves to keep them motivated, to keep working, so that there was coordination, so that they were able to get throughout the day. And with emancipation from slavery, we retained these songs and retained maypole as a traditional dance for us to be done every emancipation celebration every year, as well as the use of the bandana, which is seen in my work, the red woven textile. So that textile is our traditional textile that is used for all folk events. So I wanted to make sure that I was incorporating that in the piece as well. So hair is very prominent in my work because as a child, hair was always something that I connected to for beauty. it was I was very attached to my hair as a sign of beauty, because that's what people compliment first, because I had very long, under the butt, curly hair. So as I got older, I lost my detachment to my hair, so I started cutting it more, dyeing, bleaching, doing everything to it. And now I feel like I have a more healthy connection to it, but my hair was what made me more Indian, because people could see the texture and you're like, okay, she's Indian, especially in Jamaica, where people are able to figure out what you're mixed with based on your phenotype. So based on your hair, maybe based on your eyes, like especially the hair is a major thing. So when I would straighten it, I would get more reactions from family and more like societally to be like, oh, she's Indian. And it was more like an acceptance type thing with my hair. And as I've gotten older, I've lost that attachment, but it's still very connected to my culture, in that hair plays a large part in African cultures and Indian culture, and the significance of it and the different hairstyles. So I still like to incorporate it in my work through synthetic hair, and in this piece, the use of rose.